What is up, everyone? It is Lovenji Gaming here, and we are back with Command and Conquer GDI Covert Operations Mission 2. And this is another one of those missions that is a real pain in the neck. So it has you launch a tactical strike with groups of infantry on a small nod outpost, which you then you have to establish your base while being rushed down by infantry and then buggies. It's a real pain in the backside. We're going to use some wall exploits, but you'll see as we get this mission underway. What is up, everyone? It is Lovenji here, and as you can probably tell by the intro, we're on mission 2. Now, this mission's purely chaotic, and you can try to be careful about this, but I think it's really 50-50. You gotta rush, you gotta try and control the infantry, and your most important objective is to kill the Hand of Nod as quickly as possible, because it's going to produce a flamer, and there you can see that flamer is going to kill almost everyone. And that's why I don't like the start to this mission. You can do this with a lot more infantry surviving if you're careful. I'd actually already failed this mission after a 40-minute attempt, so I was a little bit impatient when I just selected everyone and moved them forward. Now, those infantry are going to make Nod repair the SAM site, and the reason that we're going to be doing that is it then just becomes a constant drain on Nod's resources. We've done this in other missions, and it's a great way of just whittling down their money, because they're constantly repairing, they're constantly behind. So our build is going to be very unusual on this mission, and very, very cheesy. First things first, we're going to establish a refinery as close to the Tiberium as possible. The next course of action is to get a barracks and not our standard weapons factory. And immediately we're going to build a guard tower. The interesting thing about this, and when I streamed this mission once before, it was quite an interesting matter of observation. This is probably the most like multiplayer that the AI has ever played, because what happens in this level is you get infantry rushed. And then after getting infantry rushed, you get buggy spat, and then you just get nuked. So the AI's strategy in this level is very annoying, very irritating. It's a high pressure strategy that's really, really difficult to deal with. One of the ways you can deal with it is through the deployment of some guard towers, and then what we're doing now is we're just crawling our walls up in the hopes of being able to block some of these entryways. Now, Nod attacks follow a very specific pattern. The buggies, or well, the bikes will come down the eastern path. Light tanks will come down the western path. And infantry will flood the center. But by blocking everything, you can force everything to go through the same path. And we get a little bit pressured here. As you can see, they actually attack you with so many minigunners that in fact they can kill a guard tower. And then some. So it's very important that you get that second guard tower queued up in building. Just so that you can replace the first one when it dies. Now, we're going to block the infantry route. This does not stop them attacking you, they just choose a different path. Normally they go the eastern path, but don't be surprised if they do try to go the western path. And now, with all of this blocked up, we have 1 out of 3 of our objectives sorted. The engineers allow us to secure these structures, which actually, the reason it's more useful for us is because of the build radius it provides us. We actually get quite a good build radius out of that little forward base, and as you can see there's Tiberium down there as well. And that Tiberium is going to be very helpful for us. So, a little bit of Humvee micromanagement showing off a tiny bit. just to whittle down these infantry, and we're going to slowly pull them into the guard tower. And these rockets are going to do a cool little job for us. And the job that they're going to do, well, you can probably already guess. They're going to fire away at the turrets, which are going to prioritize the advanced power plant as their target. Or they would, if I didn't mess it up and put those rockets in range. I do a great job of concealing my own mistakes, don't I? So, because Nod are low on funds, the turrets are quite easy to take out because they just get sold, and all you have to really then worry about are the infantry, which is not a threat to us at all. With this base secured, we can destroy the walls, and with the walls down, that gives us a perfect positioning for a Tiberium refinery. Now, normally, I know you're thinking, he says go weapons factory, and then another harvester, but in this instance, we actually do want the second refinery. Our primary field is starting to run low, and we want access to a secondary field, as well as the silo reserves that we get as a result. Now, because I'm going to be focusing on walls, and walls are particularly cheap, it's very easy for money to accumulate and therefore be lost, which is why I did a couple of wall crawls with silos instead of walls. They cost a little bit more, but they're going to provide us with the... how would you describe it? They provide us with the Tiberium storage capabilities. So, as you can see, the Nod infantry attacks have vastly improved. One of the exciting and fortunate advantages is that Nod, or, well, the AI in general, does not know how to use the commando correctly. When the AI gives the commando an attack command, instead of entering the structure and detonating it, as our commando would do, he instead fires on the structure with his terrible sniper rifle. Which means commandos used by the AI are really not very intimidating at all, and pose next to no threat.
Construction complete. Cannot deploy here.
The bigger threat of that attack was the 3 engineers, which will absolutely take control of your refinery if you're not careful, and the 2 flame troopers who have no problem dealing with a guard tower, because the AI's ability to use infantry is very impressive. As you can see, I've been building walls for a very short amount of time, and I've already got a sizable backlog of Tiberium, which is exactly why I did some crawling with those silos. And I'm now training a few minigunners just to exhaust those reserves a little bit. Now, we have 2 avenues covered completely defensively, and we only have to worry about pushing this flank. We've got to explore it first, and then crawl our walls up to a good choke point. Now, I use those trees as the choke point, and I go from where I've already placed my center walls, because that's much closer than going from my base. Now, we're in this situation again where this elite squadron of infantry is going to attack us and be the bane of our existence. But fortunately, we get away with the flamers being out of position and doing a couple of dumb things.
Construction complete. Unit ready.
So, what matters now to us is spending our money so that we don't have too much, and getting our AGTs up, because we're getting close to the period where the Brotherhood of Nod is actually going to nuke us, and that's something I haven't particularly addressed yet. They have a nuke. The Temple of Nod is in the northeastern corner, and as it said in the mission briefing, we have to wait for Agent Delphi to show us the best way into the Nod base, and you can see a small part on the northernmost point of the minimap has lit up. It's very misleading, because if you try to go straight there, you walk straight through a heavily fortified Nod base, and boy do you take a lot of damage for it. Now, with the AGT up, we're in a situation where we can actually sort of start to hold. We can start to think defensively, and one of the first things I want to do is actually protect the advanced guard tower with some concrete. The concrete helps protect it from tanks, as well as redirect some of the minigunner fire, and it's just in time for the bike spam to begin. Now you can see an AGT can actually handle bikes relatively well. But because infantry is involved as well, I just want to make sure there's a guard tower there as well. Of course, this is going to be nuked, and we are expecting it to be nuked, so you want to be watching your front line at all times.
Construction complete.
Again, if Nod are focusing on destroying the guard tower instead of the advanced guard tower, then that benefits us even more. Now, this field of Tiberium is our target. This is what we're trying to secure and take away from Nod, because by doing so, we confine Nod only to the Tiberium that exists within their base.
Building. Construction complete.
Now,
Building.
with this secure and my base crawl almost finished, I can finally get the weapons factory. Now, you're noticing we're about 10 minutes into the mission, and we've been nuked. We're about 10 minutes into the mission, and I haven't even built my weapons factory yet. And that's the kind of pressure that this mission is trying to put you under. Now, I'm quite fine because of the sheer amount of infantry that I've got, that even with those guard towers down, the bike spam is going to struggle against the minigunners. So I can get my weapons factory up, I can start to produce a couple of medium tanks. More importantly, I can replace the guard tower before I take any critical damage, because they're going to run into this squad of infantry, and this squad of infantry is going to handle the situation just fine.
Building.
So a couple of buggies do run by. This is about expected, and they take out a couple of medium tanks, and that's one of the reasons we don't want to be using medium tanks for this mission.
Building.
As you can without a doubt see, the bike's damage against medium tanks is very, very effective. Like, they actually do quite a lot when there's a good enough number of them. So we're just going to build our AGTs and get a choke point. And I can see what you're thinking. You're looking at the mission timer and you're looking at how good this looks for us, and you're thinking, really? Is it still going to take all this time? And unfortunately, yes.
On hold. Cancel.
One of the big challenges of this mission is actually getting into the Nod base. It requires a lot of sort of micromanagement and intense,
Building.
I don't even know how to describe it, but intense tasks.
Construction complete.
Now, because we're close to the Nod base, they're going to start sending more troops at us because they're actually feeling under threat. I mean, you can see their SAM sites in range. Their wall is quite literally right there, so we are on their doorstep. So they have every right to be trying to push us out of the base.
Construction complete.
But all we're going to do is continue to hold, and when they attack you with a huge force like that, they're not in a good place to be able to do so immediately afterwards. So we're actually in a very, very good position still, despite how it may look.
Building.
So, AGTs are very interesting. There's certain tiles you can stand on where they seem to do no damage at all. There are certain tiles where they will absolutely decimate an entire army. But most of the time you'll find your AGTs doing nothing, and you'll be getting very, very angry at them, because that's just how this seems to go. Now, I've always maintained that the AI seems to do a different damage value to you. Their AGTs always seem to be more accurate, they always seem to hit harder, just like their bikes seem to be much more effective than bikes have ever been when I've used them as the Brotherhood of Nod. But we're now in a situation where we've got a nice production of tanks. Our economy's low because we did not get the extra harvesters, of course.
Building.
But now we can start to work on the actual objective of this mission. Now, what you want to be focusing on is knocking out the Nod power. And the reason you want to do that is because they have
Cancel.
way too many obelisks. There's 3 obelisks guarding the front of each base. So there's 2 bases. There's the center base that we can see, and there's a northwestern base as well, which has power and the construction yard. But it is guarded by gun turrets, obelisks. It's a very suicidal idea to try and attack the front of either of these 2 bases. So what we're instead going to do is crawl up the side of the base, clearing out these SAM sites, and then we're going to land small tactical infantry squadrons and take out their power base, which is hiding in the northeast with their Temple of Nod. So it's two birds with one stone, because we want to deal with the Temple of Nod anyway, because it keeps nuking us, and we also want to take control of the Nod power, because then attacking them actually becomes a realistic task. Because at the moment, they're just going to decimate any forces that we may have with multiple obelisks of light. So to spawn in your Chinook, you just have to place a helipad. It's that simple. So now that I've placed a helipad, we are going to have a Chinook, which you can see, tiny little yellow dot on the far south of the map. That is our Chinook. Carries 5 infantry if you've never actually seen one being utilised in the missions. And like the APC, you have to load them one at a time, and it's very, very annoying and frustrating. But as you can see by creating this choke, now that Nod has run out of its own Tiberium, it's got no choice but to crawl through our base defences to reach ours. And it's not an easy journey either. Even if they get through on one side, they have to come back. They'll never bring a load of Tiberium past you. So they are limited to their own minute Tiberium field. Now, one of the reasons this takes so long is because I use an exploit. I'm on the another exploit. I wouldn't call it an exploit. I think it's actually intended. If a SAM site is open, so as you can see at the moment, they look like these little closed, flat rectangles. When an air unit goes nearby, they open to fire. If a SAM site is open and it gets hit by an ion cannon, the SAM site will be immediately destroyed. If an ion cannon hits a closed SAM site, it only does 50% damage. But an open one takes 100% damage. And therefore, it can be one-shot. So what we'll be doing is we'll be baiting SAM sites to open up and then sniping them down with the ion cannon. And as you can imagine, this takes a little bit of time, because one of the reasons it takes time is because we actually have to wait for the ion cannon. And the ion cannon isn't the quickest charging thing in the world. But we can take out these SAM sites very easily. The ones that I'm referring to are the ones that are surrounding the Temple of Nod, of which there are quite a few. We only need to take out the ones closest to the hillside, because those are the ones that are stopping us landing our infantry. But with that down, we're in a very, very good position. Put down another advanced power plant. As you can see, Nod have no real access to Tiberium, and their closest SAM sites are now taken out.
Building. Unable to comply. Building in progress. On hold. Building. Construction complete. Construction complete. Building. Unit lost. Unit lost.
So I'm being cheeky here, and all I'm doing is further expanding my base defences, just to make them a little bit tougher, a little bit more robust for this big army that's going to eventually hit us once I do enough to provoke them. So the second AGT really helps us with that. I can afford to do this sort of strategy, or messing around. You can even call it messing around. I can afford to mess around like this because I've got all the Tiberium fields and I'm waiting for an ion cannon timer.
Construction complete.
Now, as you can see, this gives us very, very good coverage, and not a very limited on what they can nuke. So, with the Brotherhood confined to the realms of their base, and my guard tower unable to fire on anything, which I did test, we are just sat counting the seconds. Well, all we're doing is counting time, but as you can see, we've lost an Orca. And that's very straightforward for us, because now we can see the SAM sites. Now, the two right next to the Temple of Nod we're less concerned with. What we're going to do is snipe this one, because this one can reach our Chinook. So just like that. And if you're quick enough, as you can see, the Orca itself will actually fly away as well and escape a terrible fate.
Select target.
Because Nod is low on resources, you could suicide Orcas as well to kill more even quicker. I choose not to do that, of course, but you can. Instead of spending all this money on base defenses, you can get a couple of extra Orcas and just try to get in there a few sort of seconds quicker.
Building. Construction complete. Building.
So, because I like patterns, and I also want to keep the nuclear warhead distracted as I'm unsure as to how long this will take me,
Unable to comply.
I do rebuild the base defenses yet again. And I'm just doing a little bit of manual controlling of these harvesters so that they're going to the correct fields. The last thing I want, as has happened before, is for them to go and try to reach Nod's field, which is tucked away safely at the back of its base.
Moving out.
So, you get these slower periods of Command and Conquer, which is just waiting for the economy, and if you hit one of these windows,
Unable to comply.
the usual solution to this problem is you've done something a little wrong in the building of your economy. Perhaps you didn't get enough harvesters, which is what's happened for us here really. We should have way more harvesters than we currently have for the fields that we have, and a few silos, and we should have a nice little bank. But instead, I'm being very conservative with our resources and just trying to play this as carefully as possible. As I said, I wasted 40 minutes on this mission once before and actually had to restart it. And that was very discouraging, to say the least.
Unit ready.
Made me want to be very, very careful.
Building.
This is one of the few missions that I actually do fail. This one I do fail some from time to time. A lot of the missions take a long time, but they're not necessarily hard. But this one will have you resetting several times if you're not careful. Now we're going to go in straight for another SAM site,
Select target.
and there we go. Accidentally kill Agent Dalphi in the process. Fortunately, he's not a condition for failure in this game, so we get away with that. But it is definitely something to be mindful of. So there is one more SAM site in the Nod base, and it's going to take a shot at us because I forgot it was there. And as you can see, our Chinook is now very injured. So our priority here is to get those men out and try to run the Chinook a little bit. And launch an assault with the GDI Death Squad. Spoiler alert, the GDI Death Squad doesn't do very well, and you can see why. There's just a lot of infantry.
Unit lost. Unit lost.
So I'm in a bit of a pickle here, because the SAM site is still alive. There's infantry blocking the helicopter, and there's
Building.
bikes
Unit
directly below me.
building. Unit
So
building. Unit
I'm
ready.
panicking about how I'm going to get that helicopter out.
Building.
Not entirely sure. And
ready.
in the end, I just sort of decide to go and
Building.
make a run for it, which I don't ever recommend your strategy be make a run for it. It does not replace the Chinook,
Ready. Building.
so if you were to lose the Chinook, you'd have to base push Nod or find some other strategy to break them,
Unit ready.
because all their power is safe and will be the last lot of structures you can actually reach. So it's very hard to take them out otherwise.
Ready.
I was just doing a little test to see if I could capture a Temple of Nod, which of course you can't. You can only capture the Advanced Guard Tower, and that's for the sake of a scripted mission, which you saw during the Brotherhood of Nod campaign. They ask you to capture the AGT so that you can take control of it. And now that you've watched the final ending cutscene, you know why you turned GDI's own weapon against them.
On hold. Cancel.
So this does take a little bit of time because what we're doing is we're just being very careful. And the main reason we're being careful as opposed to sort of, how would I say it, more Brotherhood of Noddy, is because of how low our funds are. It's not necessarily that we care about the units, but our resources are very, very low and very finite. So we don't want to be waiting to replenish things like Orcas when they're quite an expensive unit, and there's no need to take that kind of risk. You can imagine how much my heart sort of skipped a beat there when I made that mistake. But now we can load up infantry and do so quite comfortably. Our base defences make it so that it will be very difficult for Nod stealth units to sneak in. Not impossible, mind. The stealth units can still get into this base quite easily. The eastern of those two base defences, so a stealth tank only reveals if it gets next to an adjacent unit or structure. So as you can see, there is a way for it to slip through there without being adjacent to any structure or unit. So if the AI was smart, or if the AI was a player, it could slip a stealth tank in, but stealth tanks are awful, and the AI is not smart, so it's not something that we have to worry about. I'm trying to bait exactly that. I'm trying to bait the Brotherhood of Nod into attacking us. And one of the reasons I want to bait that response is to try and get rid of all those bikes, because those bikes are just sat there turtling up and making it difficult for me to slip a Chinook past. Whereas if I can provoke them, then Nod is going to launch an assault, expend all of its units, and be particularly vulnerable to drops. As you can see, it's slowly marching its units at us, and we're whittling away at the bikes, and we actually made it sell its airstrip, which is even funnier, because it's trying to replenish its harvesters, which it needs an airstrip to do. So it's actually just put itself in even more of a low eco situation than it was previously. And that's some of the quote-unquote funny stupidity that the AI can demonstrate, because it will always sell structures when they get below a certain amount of health, because the health doesn't matter. If you can sell a structure before the explosion animation goes off, then you get the full money. Well, the full 50% of the original purchase price.
Select target. Ion cannon charging.
And just like that, it is now safe to land. The turrets have been destroyed. All we need to do is get our infantry down there. We'll do our minigunners first, because our minigunners will clear up their minigunners. Then we'll load up our rockets to take out the wall, and then we can slip in our engineers. But the Brotherhood of Nod is running out of time to successfully nuke us, which is of course one of the things that it wants to keep doing. The reason I failed the 40-minute mission, by the way, was because I forgot to replenish my advanced guard tower, which meant the Brotherhood of Nod just nuked me, and I lost my construction yard, my war factory, and my barracks, all in one nuke, so there was physically nothing I could do, and I just sort of had to slowly die from that moment on. Now, with these two squads of infantry, we can clear up the wall, push in, and actually take control of this island. Now, I opt to capture these. First of all, they're advanced power, so they are actually more efficient than wasting engineers on normal power plants, because it actually is more expensive to build advanced power than it is to train an engineer. But also, it provides us an interesting forward base, because if you look where we are on the map, we are actually behind the Nod front line. And I've already mentioned to you about the gun turrets and the obelisks of light and all of those problems. We can kind of skip around that by attacking Nod from behind, which is what having a forward base behind them allows us to do. Now, attacking the Temple of Nod elicits a full, very confused response from the Brotherhood, in which they take out some of your base defences, but ultimately are trying to reach the infantry. Now, their own walls are blocking them from reaching your infantry, so you can mess around up here as much as you like, they will not be able to hit you. And our significant base defence sort of wall will just slowly whittle them down.
Building. Select target.
And you can start to whittle down these obelisks. You don't have to. The obelisks are going to be offline once you take over all their power. You can target more specific structures. Instead, I hit an obelisk because it doesn't really matter at this point. And this is sort of the turning point of the mission. The next 4 minutes are going to be us clearing up the map. So I'm actually going to let you enjoy that for once instead of talking over it. You'll see how I build a base behind them and push them out with a two-pronged attack from both fronts, thanks to the secure power plants. So I'll be quiet and I'll up the game sound.
Not building captured.
Affirmative. Acknowledge. Moving out.
Not building captured.
Keep him coming. That was left.
Reporting. Moving out.
Not building captured. Primary building selected. Building. Unable to comply. Building in progress. Unit ready. Unit ready. Building.
Reporting. Affirmative. Reporting.
Unit
Got
ready.
it. You got it.
Building.
Moving out. Yes.
Our base is under attack. Unit ready.
Right away, sir. Affirmative.
Building.
Awaiting order. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Roger. Yes, sir. Moving out.
Not
Yes,
building
moving out.
captured.
Reporting.
Not
Affirmative.
building captured.
You got it. Roger. Moving out. Yes. Affirmative. Yep. Moving out. Yes, sir. Moving out. Unit reporting out. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Moving out. Moving out. Ready and waiting. Affirmative.
Construction complete.
Affirmative. Moving out. Moving out. Affirmative.
Primary building selected. Building.
Reporting. Moving out.
Unit lost. Construction complete. Ion cannon ready. Unable to comply. Building in progress. Construction complete. Ion cannon charging.
Acknowledge. Yes.
Construction
Yes,
complete.
affirmative. Moving out. Unit reporting. Moving out.
Building.
Affirmative. Moving out. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Moving. Affirmative. Moving out. Unit moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Moving out. Acknowledge. Unit moving out.
Construction complete.
Yes. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledge. Unit reporting. Yes, sir. Acknowledge.
Time to rock and roll.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Unit. Moving affirmative.
Real tough guy.
Unit reporting. Moving out. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, affirmative. Yes, sir.
Building.
Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yep. Moving. Moving. Affirmative.
Building. Construction complete.
Acknowledge. Moving.
Construction complete. lost.
That was left-handed.
Acknowledge. Moving out.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Ion cannon ready. Select target. Ion cannon charging.
Acknowledge.
Building. Construction complete. Building.
Yes.
Construction complete. Building. Unit lost.
Acknowledge. Yes, sir.
Construction complete.
Moving. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledge.
Building.
Acknowledge. Yes.
Primary building selected. Building. Unit
Yes, sir.
lost.
Unit. Moving. Acknowledge. Yes, sir. Yes. Moving out. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Construction complete.
Yes. Unit.
Airstrike ready. Construction complete. Unit lost. Select target.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Moving out. Yes, sir. Unit acknowledged. Acknowledged. Moving out. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Unit lost.
Not a problem.
Unit lost.
Moving out. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Moving out. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Awaiting orders. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mission accomplished.
And that was Mission 2. It's a real pain in the backside, but if you know how to exploit the AI a little bit with your wall defences and how to make the Temple of Nod not hit your base, you can sort of do it. You got to remember Nod has its own pocket Tiberium field, so you can't really starve it out of Tiberium like you normally would. Instead, you kind of have to contain them and try and take as much of the battlefield as you can, build on diagonals, extend as much of the territory under your control as possible, bait the nuke with some AGTs, and slowly whittle Nod down. I mean, I think we had the winning position for a good 10 minutes or so, but it just takes a long time to break that base. Make sure you use the Chinooks smartly and clear out those poor SAM sites. Anyway, as always, like, share the video, leave comments, subscribe. I really enjoy interacting with you all, and I'm glad you're all still with me watching these videos. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.